Tim. I mean, that's an amazing voice, which just shows we each have innate talents yet to discover even, or to express the ones we already know we have. So one of the things I know about our teaching is it's very transformative. If we're willing to show up and be open, defer judgment, and just listen with our heart to guidance, which happens to be our theme this month. This month. So while we are waiting to connect to our Facebook family, oh, we're connected. Go live, yay! Welcome, virtual community. We are broadcasting on Facebook Live. We're so glad that you've chosen to join us virtually, asynchronously, or real time. The beauty of technology is you could do church any day of the week you want on the internet. So I'd like to introduce our amazing guest speaker who so generously drove down from the Bay Area to come and be with us this morning in our sanctuary. Reverend Sally Bartholomew first discovered the science of mind and spirit philosophy and the Centers for Spiritual Living through reading books by Louise Hay and the Science of Mind magazine in 2008. At that time, she knew she had her spiritual base camp. Even the avid student, she jumped right into taking classes, which led her to diving even deeper into practitioner studies, serving at the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, and subsequently being called to ministry. Reverend Sally graduated from the Holmes Institute School of Spiritual Leadership with a master's degree in consciousness studies and was licensed as a minister of Centers for Spiritual Living in January of 2020. Gives me goosebumps. Reverend Sally served as a staff minister at the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, collaborating closely with her senior and fellow staff ministers and the audiovisual team to take the center's services and classes onto Zoom, until April of 2021, when the call to begin her focus ministry reasserted itself. She believes the greatest power of the science of mind and spirit teaching is its emphasis on empowering individuals to know their spiritual truth of oneness with God, and its sharing of tools, study materials, and spiritual practices to help individuals embody this truth. Please give Reverend Sally a warm welcome.
Good morning, good morning. Get my stuff ready here. Good morning, Monterey Center and our online virtual community. I am so happy to be here, and thank you, Denise, for that warm welcome this morning, and everyone else as well. And happy birthday to Reverend Robert, wherever you are and whenever you see this. Thank you for letting me share in your beloved community today. Today's topic is sparking imagination. And I think we've already heard a few mentions of the word spark. So the first thing that I want to tell you today is that I'm going to be speaking about campfires, and I need to give you a safety note. I need to let you know that no campfires were left unattended during the creation of this talk, okay? So, my imagination grows my consciousness and expands my life now. Can you say that with me? My imagination grows my consciousness and expands my life now. Yes, that's what we're talking about. So as I was preparing for today's talk, I remembered my graduation, and Denise just spoke about the graduation. It wasn't that long ago, but the theme for our graduating class was, and I want to get it right, the divine spark ignited. So serendipity, we were speaking of serendipity earlier this morning. There are no mistakes, there are no accidents in spirit. So the fact that I'm coming here today to speak to you about sparking imagination makes sense. And we based our theme on a passage in the Science of Mind text that you can find on page 368 if you'd like to refer to it later. And the passage states, "As the Christ awakens, the divine spark shot from the central fires of the universal flame is able to warm other souls with the radiance of its own self-unfoldment." Wow, I still love that idea. It really sparks my own imagination for what's possible. Now, today I will be sharing with you some insights shot from the central fires of the universal flame, related to, as I said, campfires. And we're going to explore this topic of sparking imagination. Imagination is everything. It is the preview of life's coming attractions. And that's a quote from Albert Einstein. How might we spark our imaginations to work for our life's coming attractions and our highest good? Well, one way is by being open and curious, like a naturalist, right? Someone who studies nature. And here in the Monterey Bay area is a fabulous place to be a naturalist, to simply sit and observe life, nature, and be curious. By evoking your curiosity, you open the portals to the divine mind, the universal flame that is eternally burning within each and every one of us. You can intuit ways of being and integrate new practices that energize and expand your divine presence in the world. For each of us, each of you is a divine presence in the world. We set ourselves on fire and become a larger, more radiant place where the good of God comes into the world. And as Victor Hugo, the author of Les Miserables, tells us, there is no greater power than an idea whose time has come. Now, Reverend Robert told me that this community regularly engages in contemplation of good questions. Yes? Yeah, I'm seeing some nods here. All right. So I've got 3 discussion questions that I'd like to have you keep in the backs of your minds as I progress through this talk. I want you to be able to feed these into your metaphorical campfires, okay? Number 1, does your imagination run away from your highest good, or does it run toward your highest good? Number 2, when are you triggered by your imagination versus sparked by your imagination? And number 3, and this one's really important, are you committed to taking time each day to imagine the best for yourself and for all beings everywhere? Well, for me, good questions always evoke curiosity. And yes, I did say good questions, not why me? Why is this happening to me? That's not a good question, and that's going to spiral us down where we don't want to go and damp out the flames of life. So this month, in August, in CSL, Centers for Spiritual Living, we are invited to pause for guidance, to rest, rejuvenate, and prepare for the next leg of our journey. And I am very happy to say that that's what Reverend Robert is doing this weekend for himself and for this community. And I'll share with you that one of the best ways that I love to rest and rejuvenate is by going camping. Thus, my focus ministry, Consciousness Caravans, that goes camping. So come on along with me in your imagination as we explore one of my favorite camping activities, creating a campfire and eating s'mores. So how many of you have ever started a fire by scratch? All right, I see a few hands in the audience. So you know what a challenge and adventure that could be sometimes. It's not always easy to do unless you have the proper equipment, right? And you know how to use that equipment. So to make a fire, you can use many means. Matches, the easiest way. You can use a piece of flint and steel. You can use a magnifying glass and the sun, right? You can use wood and friction, many ways to start a fire. And in all of these scenarios, you need to prepare what's called a tinder nest, right? Technical term here, a tinder nest of kindling to receive the spark that's been created by the match or the other instrument. Now, kindling or tinder are usually small, dry pieces of wood or grass or leaves or other organic materials. And in our spiritual practices, we can think of these as our affirmations, positive statements, mantras, prayers, and spiritual texts. The tinder nest, or the pile of kindling, can be likened to a place of sanctuary, much like your own heart, or this center. It is a place where the divine spark can land, catch hold, and ignite the kindling. So here's a few science of mind foundational ideas that I'd like to think of as kindling for our fires today, helping us to answer the questions given earlier, and bringing forth statements supporting our annual theme. This year we're exploring the theme of evolutionary vision and timeless wisdom. So let's reflect upon the following statements from the CSL Global Vision. Envision a world which has renewed its emphasis on beauty, nature, love, through the resurgence of creativity, art, and aesthetics. Envision a world that works for everyone, for all of creation. Now, I'm sure you'll all agree that we can do this. We can envision these things by using our imaginations. Adding some more kindling to these ideas, here's some more ideas. Universal mind localizes as and through each of us. The individual, we know this localization as ideas, intuitions, and imagination. When we allow ourselves to duplicate the creative, self-giving nature of living spirit, we are activating the divine principle of self-imagination. Okay. All of these ideas, these statements, they're wonderful. They're the great kindling for what we've got going on here. Yet, I don't know about you, But I can sometimes find myself asking, how do I prove these metaphysical teachings and principles to myself? How might we use these ideas to spark our imagination towards the highest good? How does one make a campfire? Imagine with me. Go ahead and close your eyes. Imagine with me that you and I, we're out on the beach and it's becoming nightfall and it's a little cool, so we want to build a campfire. We've got the tools necessary, but it's a bit windy out on the beach. There's a storm coming. There may even be a storm present. Go ahead and open your eyes. We've set the stage. There's a storm coming. The wind is whooshing across the beach, and we're trying to create a campfire. If you think about what's going on in the world today, sometimes it feels like we're in the midst of a giant storm. There's lots of wind out there, lots of events going on. What's going on in Haiti right now? So, we want to build a campfire. The wind is up. How do you build a campfire in the midst of the wind? You turn your back on the wind and you create a sanctuary for that divine spark, right? And in creating this receptive environment, you're creating a tinder nest. We're using a tinder nest to allow the spark to land in a receptive place. So how does this relate to our spiritual lives? Well, we're told by Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, to turn completely away from the issues and problems we're having that we want to change during our times of prayer. It's not something we can turn away from all the time, but during our times of prayer and visioning and imagination, we are turning our backs to the wind. This gives us the means to create that protected sanctuary for the divine flame. And there's other proactive, nurturing postures and practices that we can use. We can have faith that the good is coming. We can have patience. We can persevere. We can seek out wisdom. Who's been down this path and done it before? And we can believe in ourselves. In building a fire, adding breath is crucial to helping the spark created burst into flames. The breath it's often used when we're preparing to go into prayer or meditation. So what's next? You've tended a campfire, you've created it, you've gotten it going. Well, you want to keep it going, right? Okay. So what do you do to keep it going? You've got to add more fuel. And every once in a while, the fuel that you have available to add shows up in my life sometimes. The logs are much bigger and wetter than is right for the fire. So if I add these bigger, wetter logs to the fire as they are, then I'm likely to put out, or at the very least, cause a smoky mess with my campfire. Wouldn't you agree that sometimes life can give us those bigger logs or wetter logs that just don't work, or we think they're not going to work in our life? Has anyone heard about the year 2020 and the corona pandemic? Yeah, that's just one wet, big log to mention. So with a fire, when the fuel provided is too big or wet, it's advisable to add more kindling. Smaller sticks, and keep breathing. Kind of like the birthing process. Allowing the breath to spur those tiny little flames that are remaining into larger ones large enough to catch hold of the new kindling and to ignite the bigger, wetter logs. Some smaller sticks to consider keeping handy in your spiritual journey are practitioners, prayer partners, spiritual classes, and brief pauses to simply breathe. So let's revisit our questions from earlier. Does your imagination sometimes run away from your highest good or towards your highest good? Well, the good news is, and we've already heard it several times this morning, there's only one power and one presence. And given that, we know that everyone has a fertile and vivid imagination, even if you haven't used it too much lately. All are imbued and surrounded by a presence that is continually imagining and reimagining itself as life. Your growth in consciousness, your acts of compassion, your explorations of greater love, your adventures in camping, in the unknown. If your imagination is providing you with wet logs or ideas that scare you or make you feel bad, these are pushing you away from your highest good. It's time to turn your back. Turn towards your highest good. When your imagination is showing you ideas that feed the fires of your heart and stir your soul, then you can know that you are moving towards your highest good. Second question. When are you triggered by your imagination versus being sparked by your imagination? Feeling triggered comes along with feelings of being agitated and anxious and feeling separate and disconnected. When your thinking is dominated by thoughts of lack, limitation, scarcity, density, these mental and emotional states might trigger an imagination that negates the spiritual truth of your being. In these cases, you might imagine, and maybe you've got a habit of doing this, worst case scenarios. When feeling this way, you might pause, take a few deep cleansing breaths, and once you are feeling calm, receptive, connected, affluent, abundant, free, refreshed, again, this is your natural state, then these mental and emotional states spark an imagination of the highest and best possibilities. We had the quote earlier today from Oprah Winfrey. You have to find what sparks a light in you so that you, in your own way, can illuminate the world. All right, here's the all-important third question. Are you committed to taking time each day to imagine the best for yourself and all beings everywhere? This question, the best answer is yes. Yes, I am committed. Yes, I am willing to turn my back, create a space of sanctuary and calm, to be receptive, consciousness sparks of imagination. And the more easily and frequently you are calm, composed, connected, refreshed, awake, alert, and in the flow, the more constructively you use your imagination, the greater your life, the greater your life for yourself and for those around you. And in wrapping this talk up, I'd like to ask a question. Do you know that humans are distinguished from all other animals in their intentional use of fire? No other animals that I'm aware of use this tool. So as humans, we decide what to ignite with the power and the presence of spirit through our choices, thinking, beliefs, and imagination. As sparks, ignited and shot from the central flame, each of us reveals God and passes on this flame to warm other souls. Pass the s'mores. And so it is. So I'd like to invite us to turn our backs to the wind, to close our eyes, and imagine there is one power, one presence, one divine, eternal, central flame. This one is that which sparks all life. Every localized expression of itself. And each and every localized expression of itself is good, is life-affirming, is joy, is peace, is love. And knowing this, I know that we are each blessed with that divine flame within us. And I know that as we discover for ourselves what lights us up, what brings us joy, that joy, that love, that light spreads and is shared from person to person to person, spreading its glow and its warmth throughout all creation. And it is good and very good. And I am so grateful for this knowing, grateful for this divine, eternal flame, grateful for this spark of life within myself and everyone. Simply resting here, knowing I am safe in this sanctuary. release this word to the law that has already committed itself and said, yes, it is done. And if you are in agreement with any of this today, please join me by saying, and so it is. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend Sally. So did you get your imagination sparked? Oh yeah, good job. One of the things that I love is when we stay present and mindful in the moment, we get to get ourselves awake and enlivened. And I feel very sparked this morning after that great talk. So I'd invite anyone at this time who has any challenge, struggle, issue, situation, to remember that Monterey Center's ecclesiastical team is available for prayer. You can certainly email us and request a prayer, a private spiritual coaching session, or put a prayer request for those in the sanctuary in our prayer box in the corner of the sanctuary. So one of the things that we do is a high spiritual practice, in which I love because this community has a high spiritual consciousness, is participating in the flow of good and giving and supporting each other with love and talent and our money is a wonderful way to express God in action. So I would invite you all to join me in saying our abundance affirmation. I recognize the presence of God within as a source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the flow of uninterrupted abundance. I release this visible substance and outer symbol of my inner supply into the physical world. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And of course, there are many ways that we can donate and give through our secure website, which is on the screen, through good old-fashioned mailing a check, or putting real money, if you're in the sanctuary, in the offertory box, which is on the glass table. And of course, you can text to give, which is our high-tech way to easily just put a code in to your phone once you've signed up. And I know that part of the joy of our imagination and expression is being inspired by the many ways we give ourselves away to other people. And in this community, we have such a generous demonstration of those who contribute in many ways in the world. So I'm grateful for this gathering and for this Sunday service where we can affirm that with each other and love each other up for who we are, because you are all spiritually beautiful, magnificent, and unique expressions of spirit. So with that, I would invite April to put on our next musical section, which we sing this in Sunday school with the junior church kids. I love myself just the way I am. Isn't that great?